Welcome to this edition of B.E.P Talks, where amazing people from all around the world, all walks of life, and from every area, industry, profession, walk of life, come and share their beliefs, their experiences, and their passions, all to inspire, motivate, educate, sometimes even to entertain. And today is certainly no exception. But coming to us today on a very special day, an extra special day, and I'll talk about that in a moment, is the amazing Dr. Cara Barker. Dr. Cara, welcome to B.E.P Talks.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, not nearly as excited as I to have you here. And let me share with the audience why this is an extra special day. Today is actually Dr. Cara's birthday.
Yes.
And exactly. And it's a very special birthday. Believe it or not, look at this beautiful woman. Today she starts her 8th decade. Do the math.
Yeah.
That is incredible. That is incredible. So from the bottom of my heart, and I know for everybody, we send you abundant happy birthday wishes and more years to come. Happy, healthy, wonderful years to follow.
I love it. I love
Yes.
it.
Well, I'm already loving you. You are an extremely special person, and for many different reasons, may I say. In reading about you, I've unfolded a lot of very fascinating information. You come with a very diverse background. What struck me so strongly, I will say, is that, well, you are a nurse, and I love nurses. You are a Vietnam War era nurse. At that particular time and acting as a nurse under those conditions, I have to imagine that you've seen some unforgettable, unbelievable things.
Mhm.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about your experiences, would you please?
Well, let me start by saying, let me backstep a minute and say that when I was at the University of Washington in 1964, my speech professor, Laura Kroll, said, "Never tell, always show." So what I learned in Vietnam nursing was that I just finished doing these sketches so I could do what she said, is a gift. This moment is a gift because when I was 60, I promised myself I would never work on my birthday. But you and the audience, this is the first time I've ever done something on my birthday because you're my peeps. I mean, any people who are interested in more aliveness, in more joy in their life, in the microscopic as well as the mega, even in times like this, so filled with chaos every day, a new surprise. Honestly, it takes me back to Vietnam in a certain way. The last thing I expected is that would be a gift because I would sit, it was synchronistic. I was sitting in the mess hall one day, and this isn't a joke. There was a rabbi, a priest, and an Episcopal reverend. And they were talking about how to get these men to talk because a lot of them would not, their injuries were horrific. And so I'm sitting right next to them. It's like France, you're crowded next to each other. And I'm looking, and the priest said to me, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, maybe they need a good listen." And he said, "Would you come with us on rounds?" So I did. Now I always carry, not a paintbrush, but I carry one of those big pens with 4 colors.
Yeah.
In my pocket, in my uniform. And so I went in, and this guy had literally half a face left, one arm and one leg left. He was a surgeon. And I said, "I understand you don't like to talk. Would you mind if I just sit with you?" And he shook his head no. So I just started to sketch. And when I finished, I don't know, 15 minutes later, he said, "May I see it?" And I showed it to him, and that opened up the conversation. That was way before the Kellogg sisters started art therapy. There wasn't such a thing then. So I learned from him that we can see some injury, some suffering, but the real suffering is invisible. And it happens when we're just going along in our life. I did this little one, we're just tootling along in our life, going along, things look good. And then we go, I really would like to go home. Now that could mean the physical home, or it could mean home inside. I want to go
Sure.
back to some sense of peace and quiet. But then what happens is, like that soldier, and me in many instances, and all of us, is when we leave that place of sanctuary. And I know everybody's growing up place wasn't a sanctuary. I get it. I'm talking metaphorically. But we leave it. And then what happens is we come to the edge. Now, in my life, that Vietnam nursing situation was a serious edge.
Yeah.
Because I was young. I was 20. So, it's like the poem, "Come to the edge," she said. And they said, "I'm afraid." "Come to the edge," she said. "I can't. I'm so scared." And she said, "Come to the edge." And she pushed and they flew. So our life is like that. We meet many edges. I met one of mine when my only son was killed years ago. He was in college, just took finals at the university, and a drunk driver killed him. I learned that. I did not want to go down into this darkness. I was terrified I'd never come back. And so I painted that first year because I couldn't find words. In fact, by early 2026, that book will be published. That'll be my 5th book of the sketches, because Dr. Jung, who was one of my mentors, said, it's not words that land here in our soul, it's images and symbols. Okay, so I was terrified I'd never come back. Then my husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's 20 years ago. He's been in assisted living for 7 years. I've lived alone for 7 years. I'm half a widow, half not. He can't speak now. We haven't spoken it verbally, really a full conversation in 3 years, but we have found other ways. There's a gift there. Now, how do I know? How do we know that there's I could put down my paintbrush, I guess. So when I was a little girl in the 1940s and 50s, we built, I didn't personally, but my family did, bomb shelters, because after the war, the rubble, the blitzes, all that, we were terrified, Americans, that we would be bombed out. Think Gaza right now. Okay. So they built a bomb shelter, but to get to it, you had to go through this door. And that door, if you can see it, do I have it upside? It's at the very bottom. There's a little door there. Of course, it's not white, it's dark. You'd open the door to our basement, which was all cement, and you'd walk down this long flight of stairs. And when you got to the bottom of this long staircase, to the left was a coal burning furnace. There was a guy that came once a month and he'd pour coal through the chute into the coal room. But if you took a right and walked by the freezer we finally got, there was the bomb shelter room. And in the bomb shelter room, there were shelves of wood where my mother had stockpiled all this food. There wasn't freeze-dried food then, so she had mason jars of peaches and cherries and peppers and everything we had picked in the summer, and then a huge supply of medical supplies, because she was a nurse anesthetist, one of the first 5 in this country, and English wasn't her first language. Then there were sleeping bags, but on the floor was a trunk, an army trunk. But we were not to go into the trunk because my mother was afraid that we would ruin things. In the trunk were dolls from all over the world. A beautiful doll from Paris with a china face, hand painted, a doll from Germany with these gorgeous brown eyes, glass eyes. It looked like she was real, a stiff head, the little, what do you call them, buns on either side of her face, little white ruffled dress, black little velvet vest, red and white with flowered dress, little puffy sleeves. I loved her so much. But my mother said, no, because you'll ruin them. Okay. Well, in fairness to my mother, I did take the one from Scotland, I'm sorry to say, Beth, and I decided to wash her hair. Well, it all came off because it was glued on little strips, and my mother washed my mouth out with soap. I'm not sure what that had to do with washing the hair, but it made a message. Don't mess with the dolls. Okay. About 20 years after that, my parents decided to move because they were older. And they said, come over and get whatever you want. So I zoomed down to the bomb shelter and I opened the lid. They were all moldy.
Oh,
They were ruined. Okay, what does that have to do with us? It has to do with every single thing we go through is a gift, but we can't let it rot. You know, we had an apple tree, not a big apple tree, but a mature one, and it pumped out 400 pounds of apples a year, green apples. And I mean, I could only make so much applesauce and apple pie and apple crumble. So I'd give it away to neighbors, a lot of it. But at the end of the day, some of the apples fell on the ground and they went to rot like the dolls. That's true for us. We have so much treasure inside of us, but we're afraid to open the box. It's held in the unconscious. So, because I'm a Jungian psychoanalyst, nurse practitioner, whatever, um, I've learned how to open the box. And it's done through dreams, like digging deep into dreams. It's just, oh my God, it's so valuable. In fact, this place I live in came from a dream where I dreamt we were in Kirkland with a view of the lake. And my husband said, that'll never happen. We can't afford it. But it happened. Things happen. Then there's synchronicities, meaningful coincidence, like I'm here with you and our friends who want to have more full life. There's many synchronicities we have to unpack.
yeah.
And then there are body symptoms. I told you that I'm having complete knee replacement, left knee on February 10th, had the right one done last year, named her RBG, naming the left one my favorite artist, Frida Kahlo, because I want badass women to stand on. Okay, so I looked, okay, well, what's the symbol of the knee? It's the Senex. It's the aged teacher. But, you know, our old way of being in the world becomes sort of spiritually arthritic. And I thought, I need a new way, apparently, of looking at my life and contributing in deeper ways, because that's why I'm here. That gives me great joy and purpose. So it's extremely painful surgery. I had it done last year. My doctor, I told you, Beth, my doctor said it's the most painful major surgery there is. It is, but I'm going to take my sketchbook. I'm going to take the meds they give me and not fight it because you don't get extra credit for pain. But I'm going to move through it. I've done it before. I'll do it again. But meanwhile, I'm going to be listening to my dreams, working my dreams, looking at gratitude that I have such a good surgeon. By the way, if you don't mind, pray for me on the 10th and the surgeon. I want him well rested. And all will be well. Julian Norwich said it. All is well, and all manner of things as well. I love her. So that's my story, babe.
That's your story, and it's clearly not the end. A lot still has to be written, clearly. You have said so many things, and first of all, I want to comment on the fact that your mom was a nurse anesthetist, because that was a role that a nurse had. Not that, I didn't think it went back that far, to be honest with
No,
you.
well, she was one of five. It just had begun. And they had no monitors. It
Oh,
was
God.
all done by your senses, you know, being in your
Oh,
body and paying close attention.
wow.
Yeah, she was amazing.
She clearly was, and as are you. I have a niece who is a nurse anesthetist and a brilliant young woman, and I know what she went through to study it. I can't imagine what it was like way back when. I love that you used the expression open the box, and you used it metaphorically as regarded that box that you viewed as so desirable, so sacred in your bomb shelter. And I hope you didn't have to spend too much time there. Why? And I know that you didn't open it at the bequest of your mom.
Oh, I snuck a few peeks.
Well, I get that spirit about you. I have no doubt about that. Do we all have this metaphorical box that we keep even at an, it's about us, but we keep it kind of at an arm's length, even to ourselves? And
Yes.
that in doing that, we're missing some of the greatest adventures, the greatest opportunities that life can offer us? Is that true?
It's absolutely true. I've worked over the years, let's say 54 years clinically, with hundreds of thousands of people. And in every single case where they were willing to do the dig and open the box, they found amazing things. Because in it is all the things we've pushed away. For instance, I started drawing when I was 2. My mother put pictures of my drawings in my baby book. So now that I know what drawings mean, I was very advanced. I always drew, but I never went into art because I thought, well, I have to be a commercial artist or a medical illustrator, but there's no life in that for me. I don't want to crank out what other people want me to paint or draw. So I pushed that away as a hobby. But guess what I did when I'd get back from rounds at Walter Reed? Take out the paintbrush. It's a way of mindfulness, of engaged mindfulness.
Well, it
So
was so hard also to express what I have to imagine that under certain circumstances of making those rounds under those circumstances with the patients and the soldiers and whatnot, you had to hold a lot in. Like you couldn't have gasping kind of reactions so that when you went back and you had some private time, you could, without like screaming or banging your head, it was a way of expressing yourself.
we have to find a means. You know, my one of my colleagues was suicidal. I mean, we did not have awareness of PTSD. It was called shell shock. So I had nightmares for 12 years after that of
Oh,
horror stories. So I had to do something, but that's for all of us. We have to take what's in us that gives us the most delight and joy and express it. And I don't care if it's with clay or wood or paint or song or dance. We have to express it. Otherwise, what happens is it's like a sinkhole. It just sinks back down there. And then what happens is sometime later, we overreact to something, which is called implicit memory. It means it's it's stuff, memory, that's in the unconscious that we haven't unpacked. And it's trying to bring itself into consciousness, and we try to stuff it down again. So it behooves us. In fact, let me tell you a quick, can I tell you a quick story?
absolutely.
It's a longitudinal study. I love this, of 180 nuns. And they followed 180 nuns, the researchers, and half of them lasted 10 years longer than the other half. When on autopsy, the brains were all the same. What was the distinction? The ones who lived 10 years longer were optimistic. They
Mm.
felt gratitude. They expressed themselves, self-expression. The ones who didn't were worriers and complainers and, rigid. I'm not saying they weren't good people, but I'm just saying they lived their life in a very different way. Very different way. In fact, on Netflix,
Here's some of those nuns.
oh, blue zones. If you who's sitting there don't know about blue zones, look on Netflix. Um, a hu- Living 100 years longer, I think is the name of it. And it shows, for instance, like in Okinawa, they have certain things they do, like these people have lived over 100 years old. They find joy, they play, they have community, which is part of the genesis of me having little groups and international groups. And I'm going to have more of them. Is we have to have community of life purpose and optimism. And it's really hard for people right now. I say
Yes.
disengage from the news. I mean, at least make a sketch before you go there, because we've got to bank our energy. We have to get through the next 4 years, no matter where you vote or how you vote. I don't care. We all are in it to, Union says,
Together,
we're
yes.
in the soup together. We are.
I want to make a reference to one of the drawings you showed. It was where you were like walking to the ledge and then there was the black hole and, come, come, and no, I can't, I can't. And that it was kind of metaphorical for where your bomb shelter was, that you had to
Yes,
go down through something.
yes,
Am I interpreting this right? We sometimes have to pass through your knee surgery. Sometimes you have to go through more pain to get out of the pain. And sometimes you have to take a risk of going to maybe where you're not sure you're actually going to end up to get to the next place.
absolutely. You know, it's like with my husband, he can't, it really has been 3 years since we've had a two-way
Um,
conversation because he mumbles and he's getting some cognitive decline. So I had to, first I was so darn frustrated. And then I thought, wait a minute, this is teaching us something. We learned a deeper way of loving, and we've been married 45 years.
That's so
You know, there are
beautiful.
deeper ways of loving.
Yes.
So I call him my best boyfriend ever,
Well,
favorite husband. You know, I do a lot of kinesthetic, a lot of touch.
sure.
He tries to hold my hand, but his
Mhm.
hand's like this, but he's trying, you know? And so,
You said, um, don't just tell it, show it.
yes, yes. And that to me is the most meaningful way. I'm just driving. I think my daughter and son-in-law crazy because I'm saying they had a new baby 4 days ago, Estrella.
Oh, how
And
wonderful.
Estrella means celestial star. And I say, you jerks moved to North Carolina. You're like in another country. I'm in the West Coast. You have to send me pictures every day. I don't want, when I show up in June, when I can walk again, that baby to go, who's this old hag? I don't know
Um,
her. Well, she's your Nana, who's who she is.
well,
So,
once she meets you and knows who you are, you truly will be unforgettable. I can't imagine you ever being able to be forgotten. What is it that what is it that holds us back? I mean, I can relate to people. I can think of, I've coached so many people, mostly women, who there are similarities, as I'm sure you would say, that
sure.
bind all of us. There are trends, there are personality types. What is it that we are most afraid of? Why do we think that there are things in our life that are just broken? They will forever be broken. There's no way to fix them.
Yeah.
Tell us how do you fix or how do you encourage someone to try to fix something, maybe even mend a relationship that they want to believe is not fixable, but how do they know if they haven't tried?
Well, they won't know. I mean, what holds us back here, to answer your question, is fear.
Yeah.
We're, so many, America is very extroverted. 75% of people are extroverted. Switzerland, where I did my postdoc stuff, is very introverted. So, they hold things close. Extroverts talk about everything, but going inside, not so much. I mean, some people who've grown a lot do, but it's so frightening to think that there's more to us than we've grown up to believe, even if it's better, because if it's better, and by the way, it is, then we have to take responsibility for it.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I don't know, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, I never would have made little sketches before a thing and done that. I've always done speeches because for whatever reason I'm asked to do speeches, but I had a script until one day I was doing one for a big Nordstrom thing and I went, I can't stand this. So I just threw it away and just went with it. And it was so much more fun. I went, that's my way of showing up. It has to be in the moment or it's dead to me.
Yes, I can appreciate that. And that different mediums, there are different things that are going to strike people or impress people and last with them longer. And sometimes an illustration, even though it's a rather simple illustration, brings home a very, very important point in a very profound way because you have that visual in
Yeah.
your head. You might forget what somebody said or the sequence because sometimes we get hung up on a word or we get hung up on a thought. But when you've had anything visual, you can always pull that back.
You and Dr. Jung are best friends. Having said that, it's really true. And yet people are terrified their sketches will be shown and their paintings will be shown or their artwork will be, what will people think? Oh my God, oh my God. And we have to get through that. It's like, forget what they think. Step out. My God, be bold. This is the only, I could bite it tonight before my surgery. I'm well aware the sand is slipping through the glass. I don't have time to fool around. I mean, I can laugh and be silly and all that, but I don't have time to waste. I have to
Ways.
step into myself today. And if somebody thinks that was a stupid little drawing, then that's their take. That's fine. I honor it. It's just what I had to do because I care about you. I care about the people who are joining us today. I deeply care. And if that's the case, then I've got to dare to be me. And I, I mean, the joy of seeing somebody come into their own is like being in the labor and delivery in a baby crowns. It's just coming into a birth of who they are. Now, is it a one-time shot? No. You have to keep working it. I had an 82-year-old client, no, 92-year-old client. We had a huge snowstorm years ago. And so I assumed people wouldn't, we lived on top of Norway Hill. I assumed people wouldn't be coming. And and there were no cell phones. She's trudging up in her cross-country skis. She's at the door, this little 92-year-old woman who was almost blue. I said, "What are you doing here, Hilda?" And she said, "I'm 92. I don't have time to waste."
God
I
bless her.
love it.
That is so true. That
I
is so true.
love it.
So what are we waiting for? I mean this including myself. We have thoughts, we have dreams, we have ambitions, we have goals. What are we waiting for?
I do not know. I do not know. When I started attending conferences, after many years of them, and sometimes I'd be bored to death, and
Yeah.
other times I'd be riveted, so I'd forget to take notes. Which reminds me, anyone who wants notes today, I'm going to develop a one sheet freebie. So if you go to my Gmail and just tell me you want it, I will send it to you because I learned after those years of conferences, why am I not with my colored pencils and paper? That's what I love to do. So I started making sketches during the talks and I remembered them way better than had I taken notes. I did that in Zurich. I thought, my colleagues are trying to get every word, and I thought, I can't do this. So I thought I'm gonna distill the one sentence, and I put the one sentence in a journal. So what I have is 4 years of one sentences because those were the nuggets. So
Right.
I say to people, forget taking so many notes. Listen to what the heart responds to. Listen,
It's
and
so
that'll
true.
be,
As a college student, it was my first semester. My English professor gave a very good suggestion. She said, listen, write notes, take down words, um, reread them, rewrite them, and expand upon them. So I thought, well, I have nothing to lose. It's a new experience. And I did that. I did that for my 4+ years of college. I mean, I graduated in 4, but continued. And I always did that. And I only wrote and I'm left-handed, by the way, I only wrote on the right side of the notebook so that the left side was blank. I wrote in steno pads. So you heard it, you wrote it. That's
yeah,
2 impressions. I went home, I reread it. That's 3. I rewrote it. That's 4. And then I read it. That was at least 5 impressions. That was the learning process.
yes.
And then I would take only my steno books to class with me, and whatever classes I had, I took the good notebook. And as the professor was speaking or something, I go, oh, I have a note on that. I could go, and on the blank side, I could
Yeah.
add a little codicil to my notes. I could add something. Okay, so when it came time for tests, all I did was read my notebooks. I stopped buying textbooks except for, well, psychology, philosophy, you had to buy those, and business law because I loved it. I stopped buying textbooks because I couldn't read them, but I could listen. So
Yeah.
when it came time for finals, especially, people would say to me, can I borrow your notebook? Can I borrow your notebook? And I was afraid. It was like my treasured
Yeah.
possession. I gave it to some people. It didn't do for them what it did for me because
Yes.
it was a series of experiences. I could literally close my eyes
Yep.
and read the notes
Because you did it through your senses. You
through
did it.
all of my senses.
Wait, yes. And your sounds like your audio is your highest learning form. It's mine too. So taking it in and then rewriting it and then rewriting it. I did that in anatomy and physiology and chemistry and all of that because I just needed to review that stuff.
Right, right. Then it
So,
became so easy to understand. That's interesting. I might guess that audio is my best learning because I am a listener. And you know what? I'm going to guess that that's probably true because I will say to people will say to me, "How do you remember that?
uh-huh.
How do you remember things that you learned in school?" I'm like, "Wow, what a notion." I actually, and I say to them, because I actually learned it.
Do you know, I tell you a true story. Last week, I had a client I worked with many years ago. I think he finished 23 years ago. And he started laughing about something. And I said, oh, yeah, that's that dream that you had. And he said, what? I said, the dream that you had when we were working together. He said, how did you remember that? I didn't. I said, because you were telling it to me and I was making a doodle. I was making a sketch and I remember it vividly. He
You
goes,
know what? I said it because you matter to me. What you say to me matters to me because it must have mattered to you. You know what? It's just, it goes back to such basic things, Dr. Cara. It goes back to such basic things that are similar among all of us and in different circumstances and for different reasons, of course. But being open-hearted, open-minded, open ears, listen. We all know people who can sit silently and wait for their turn to speak. Some of like the biggest personalities on TV and quote unquote journalism do that. I mean, you
yes,
can literally see them reading their notes while the other person is speaking,
yes,
waiting for their turn to speak. But
yes, but not listening.
not listening, having no continuity. And I always say to people, you know, communication means with, it's at least together with at least one other person. Good communication, however it is, whether it's through your charming artwork that really says so much in a beautifully simple way, and I don't mean to disparage it at all. It's making very significant points quite simply and quite memorably.
I'm so glad because I had fun doing it.
And you love the word joy. I love the word joy. And if it brought you joy, that's enough. But if it brought something to somebody else, a
Meaning,
learning experience, a moment of
yeah.
reflection, a moment that they might think, well, what the devil does that mean? But then down the road, they go, oh, remember that picture that Dr. Cara did? Suddenly it takes on, they can have that aha moment.
You know, yesterday I was walking along the lake and it's really cold. It was 26 degrees. And I'm walking along the lake and I stop and I'm using my phone to take a picture and I'm laughing. And this woman with her friend comes up to me. She goes, what on earth are you laughing about? It's really cold. And I said, because look at the shoots. That it's look underneath the frost, there are little shoots coming up. She said, where? I said, right there. Look, they're like 2 inches, 3 inches tall through that frozen ground. My God, what a statement that it is our nature in creation to grow. And they're growing despite adversity. She says, I didn't even see him. And I went, I know. It look,
Point.
it's right in front of our face.
Right. Well, everything. Oh, look, we're holding hands. Put your hand up. Put it over to where your pin is on that side, the left side. We were actually, put it up like here. We were actually, for a moment, it was like no coincidence. We were actually holding hands. Our hands were touching there. I loved
And
it.
we are. You know, one of my books was called Holding Hands. I never published it, but it was called
Are you
Holding.
kidding? Oh my gosh.
My son was killed. But that book will come out this year, but it will be the paintings with a little bit of verbiage.
Um,
Because everybody who goes to the edge, and it's a big enough divorce, terminal illness, illness of a spouse, death of a child, being fired at a job, hating your job, your best friend turning against you, whatever it is, we all go to the edge. Some jump and some go, no, I'm afraid I can't. And then Mother Nature shoves us face down into the muck. And we go, oh no, now what? But it's there the little door is into our experience. I know
Fool
that.
with Mother Nature. Don't mess with Mother Nature.
No, she's going to win
She's going to
every
win.
time.
And guess
Fired.
what? When she wins, she's really giving us the opportunity to win.
She is. It's like nursing logs, a fire, the California fire, trees burned down, but if we give it 7 years, there will be new sprouts.
Yes, yes, yes. Always hopeful. I have to tell you, you are truly one of the most fascinating women, and I can talk to you forever. What I'd like to do is invite you back on another topic, perhaps at another time.
I'd love it.
I I would love it. And your groups, I'd love to know more about your groups. Your body of work, your life is so magnificent, and you've been through so many situations, moments, even if it, and I don't mean even if to diminish it, in observing what other people were going through.
Uh-huh.
You know, it was their pain as wounded warriors, but that became your pain, and you found a way through it and to use it to become a better person yourself and to help others become a better person. I don't think there's a better way to describe a life that is being so well lived.
Oh,
And at the tender age of 80, on this very day, January 28th, 2025, and I have a very dear friend who shares this birthday with you. So it's
oh,
always been a special day for me. You just bring so much clarity, so much hope, and I'm going to use your word, so much joy for people to realize that no matter how bad it is, it can certainly always be worse, can be better, but you have to do something to contribute to
that's right. You've
making it better.
got to create out of it. You've got to step into it. And having support is very, very helpful.
Absolutely. So I want to say, uh, Dr. Cara, tell us, if you will, the kind of support that you offer and how people could get in touch with you.
Okay, so I have another thingy here. So first of all,
Look at you.
here's
Pull it
my
back a little
Gmail.
bit. It's too close. Pull it back a little bit. There you go.
Email.
Dr. Cara, Dr. Cara, Cara Barker, Barker at
So it's
gmail.com. Even the
Br
simplicity of that.
at gmail.com. So what I can do, if you write to me, now remember I've got major surgery coming up, but I promise you that I will get it to you, is a little freebie summary. Also, I'm going to do a webinar. Yay. It's my first webinar. I haven't had time to do webinars, so I have to figure out how to do it. But it's going to be 90 minutes on a Monday, 7:30 to 9 a.m. And that's my time. So on the East Coast, of course, it's later, or Central, it's later, where I'll do 60-minute talk on what you want. So on if you write me, tell me what you want to hear about. Okay. And then 30 minutes Q&A.
Oh, beautiful.
Also, after that, I'm going to do an online 4-week course, but let's not get ahead of the cart here.
Right, right.
So, going to do that. And my promise to myself, in fact, I promised my mother, I put on her favorite perfume today, Joy. Isn't that funny? It's called
Oh,
Joy.
no
I said,
coincidences. No
she's
coincidences.
been gone 41 years, but my pledge to you, Mom, for birthing me is every day I'm putting myself in gear as best I can and honor your life,
Great.
honor my son's life and my father's.
Sure, sure,
I've
sure.
been
That's
corporate
so
for a long
beautiful.
time.
That's so beautiful. Please, listeners, don't miss the opportunity to connect with this amazing woman at Dr. Cara, Cara Barker, Barker at gmail.com. You know, you're
Huh?
going to have a lot of downtime. I hope not too much, but downtime for you to be
This
answering a lot of emails. So, so much to wish you. Certainly a thorough and speedy recovery
thank
from your knee replacement. Something tells me that for you in your life, not such a major thing. The
But
doctors, they know who they're dealing with. And yes, I always pray for the doctors. When I pray for people
exactly.
going, I always pray for the
And
doctor.
a Monday surgery, I can tell you this as a nurse, first surgery in the morning. You want them fresh.
You want them fresh. I
Yeah.
say, let them have had a good night's sleep. They didn't fight
Yes.
with their spouse, that yes. So pray for the doctors always. Congratulations on the
Thank
birth
you.
of your beautiful new baby granddaughter.
Thank you, Illustria. Oh,
Illustrate such a beautiful name and so descriptive. It tells a story just in the name.
it does.
And
It does.
such good thoughts for your husband. And I
Thank
know that that's not an easy journey that you travel with him.
you. Yeah.
Harder on you than it is on him
But
is
we're
what I
together.
would guess.
We're in
You're
it
together.
together. So will you link this to my website? Just
I will send you a link for it. You can
okay.
use it as you choose.
Okay,
You can
my
use it.
website, if anybody wants to know, is carabarker.com. Simple. Okay?
Simple. Couldn't be
Okay.
easier. Most importantly, on this very special day, I wish you abundant, abundant happy birthday wishes,
Thank
good
you.
health, good happiness for so many more years. And thank you for taking time out of this very important day to share with us. We appreciate you, so appreciate you beyond these simple words. It's
Thank
been
you
an
so much.
absolute joy to get to know you up front and personal.
Ditto,
You,
babe.
you
Right
are a gift. You're so kind.
back
You
on
are a
you.
gift.
Okay. Take good
Thank
care of
you.
yourself.
Be
Be good
well.
to
And to
you.
everybody, thanks for tuning in to B.E.P Talks. As you know, it's always about sharing beliefs, experience, and passions. Perfect example here today. Go to info or go to www.beptalks.com and schedule your own B.E.P Talk so we can share your beliefs, your experiences, and your passions. And as we always say, may the best always be yet to come. Dr.
Yes.
Cara, truly my wish for you.
Thank you. And mine for you as well. All
Thank
of you.
you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye bye for now.